right, you are good. Oh, good to go. Okay.
I'm Puckett.
I'm Hudson Troxel.
Peyton, Irvin. I'm here. And we took a look into how the transfer portal has affected student athletes. So, what is the transfer portal? It was created in 2018 by the NCAA, and it was to allow the process to be simpler for student athletes to transfer, and hopefully like help their eligibility if they want to come in and play immediately, or help with that. The entire school, coaching staff are involved. So traditionally, they would have to like go to their coach and tell them they wanted to transfer. The coach would tell them no, and then they could go through a whole process, which could end up going to like a appeal to like the board. And that just took a lot longer than the transfer portal now. Less time consuming. Players can enter the portal in less than 2 days, and they already knew like what school they were talking to. They could go ahead and talk to them, but other schools to find them. I found this story interesting before we get more into it. On the left is Cam Rising, on the right is Jake Bentley. They both went to Utah, and Jake Bentley was able to play immediately. Cam Rising, for some reason, had to sit out for a season, so the NCAA wanted to look more into that. Student athletes use it, all colleges, divisions use it, and during the creation, 302,000 Division I, Division II athletes, 15,000 of the athletes had entered the portal. Of the 15,000, 10,000 were D1, and 25% of those 10,000 were college football.
So coaches' opinions. A lot of coaches are heavy into the transfer portal, but then a couple slides later, you'll see some football coaches that quoted how it's kind of like a love-hate relationship with the transfer portal. But once an athlete enters the portal in the website, coaches and staff are able to contact the player and just keep in touch. Who created the transfer portal? NCAA created it in October of 2018. And it was an easier way for student athletes to be able to transfer to newer schools. And just the old way was more complicated, and it just took a lot of time, and a lot of student athletes just weren't able to get into another school that they wanted to. What is the transfer portal? So important. It's just a lot easier to transfer. Just makes things a lot more simpler. And then teams can fill their rosters with experienced college athletes. So coaches don't have to take the time to try and kind of develop high school players. And then, yeah, it just gives athletes a new chance for an institution. And it also gives college athletes just more power for themselves, so they're able to transfer to the schools.
How to enter the transfer portal for Division I, you have to complete like a whole academic semester. And then the player before the transfer has to inform their institution of them wanting to leave. They have to communicate that with coaches. Once they enter the transfer portal, they'll receive an email allowing other coaches from other schools to contact that athlete. If the athlete wants to transfer, the school that they're at previous has to place their name in the transfer portal within 2 business days of the request for the transfer. How to transfer from the Division II, you have to fill out a written request form with the NCAA. The previous school cannot block the athlete from wanting to transfer. And then in Division II, it's different than D1. They have 7 days to submit the athlete to the transfer portal instead of 2. And then the previous school can approve or deny that immediate eligibility. Like if they want to compete right away, that previous school will have permission to approve or not deny it. Then Division III, to transfer, you have to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. The Eligibility Center is determines the student athlete's eligibility based on athletics and academics. Athletes can release themselves from a Division III school And then we get talking to other schools. And then in Division III, they set their own admissions and eligibility standards. And to get into the D3, you must meet the admission requirements from that school. Transferring from a D1 school, if you're coming from a 2-year school, you have to you can either graduate from that school, or you can complete 2 transferable or 12 transferable credit hours and have a GPA of 2.5. If you're transferring D1 from 4-year, complete 1 full semester, or complete 12 transferable credit hours and have a GPA of 2.5. Transferring D2 from a 2-year institution, you have to enter the transfer portal by June 15th. If you don't, then you cannot transfer. Graduate from a 2-year institution, complete 1 full semester, instead of D1, instead of 12, have 9 transferable credit hours. And then from a 4-year, the same, enter the transfer portal by June 15th, complete 1 semester, and then 12 transferable credit hours instead of 9, and have a GPA of 2.2. Then for D3, if you're transferring from a 2-year, complete 2 full-time semesters, 24 transferable credit hours. And then if you're transferring from a 4-year, you have to be eligible at your previous institution to transfer. And then if you haven't attended a 4-year, this has had to competed in practice or in some kind of sport at the college or university.
So what are the benefits of the portal? Like athletes, as mentioned before, athletes have a lot of power in like their decisions now, like they can choose where they want to go and like how quickly they want to go pretty much. And like before the portal was created, like players could be essentially like trapped if the other college or if their college at the time really wanted it, because like there was no like people could intervene, a lot of people could intervene and get involved with it. So there's a lot more negative side effects of that. And athletes can now transfer and play immediately, and that goes along with having a lot of power. Like they can transfer wherever they want to get to the school they want to be and play immediately. It's just a better experience for college athletes. And the weaknesses, like schools can kind of get biased, like if players try to transfer, like they can like kind of not give the athletic assistance or aid like a player needs, because like why invest like a bunch of money and resources into a player that's trying to leave? And like the current school does have a right to like void a scholarship, like, but it's not as prevalent as pre-portal because it's not as colleges don't have as much say as the players do now. And the portal has kind of made like a free agency for colleges, as like players can kind of swap wherever they want to go. And as you'll see later, there's just a lot of examples, like a lot of teams right now are dealing with like a bunch of issues with players transferring constantly. Moving on. So some personal opinions. The head football coach for Clemson, he said, it's total chaos right now. There's so much tampering going on with so many adults manipulating young people, and it's sad. Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, he said, I don't think people really say it this way. Well, let's not make a mistake. We have free agency in college football. So kind of like Eric said, well, like I said before, it's really a love-hate relationship with the transfer portal and between the head coaches and the players. So like many people have talked about like making it more difficult for players to transfer because, as I said before, a lot of people are doing it and using it, taking advantage of it. In this past year alone, about 3,400 athletes from all divisions entered the transfer portal, and of those 3,400, 1,300 were scholarship FBS players, and nearly half still haven't found a destination. And recently, LSU's basketball team, I think 11 out of the 12 players left and entered the transfer portal because they weren't happy with the situation there. So kind of disrupts what the school's doing a little bit. So like football has become like the main popular correlation with the portal, as like some famous examples include like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, and Joe Burrow transferring. And those are examples of like successful transfers where they went and transferred and had a good experience. And but like as like many people saw this year, like it doesn't always work out well. With like JT Daniels, who transferred from USC to UGA, ended up losing the starting QB job to Stetson Bennett, who ended up leading them to the national championship. So, and JT is back in the transfer portal again. So yeah, that just didn't work out very great for him. And like JT technically wasted a year of his eligibility and may have momentarily hurt his draft stock by transferring and not being able to play, but like Being able to have the opportunity to transfer gives hope for players like him to find a better home and better situation.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was all for them for this session. So I guess we have a break in between the next one. Okay.